If you're single this Valentine's Day, this is not an accident, and it's not a delay. Before you scroll, before you doubt yourself, hear this carefully, because what's unfolding right now was not meant to be understood by everyone. It was meant to be recognized by you. You've been asking why love seems to pass you by while others celebrate, post, announce, and move forward. You've wondered whether something is wrong with you, whether you waited too long, whether obedience cost you companionship. But what heaven is revealing now is this: your season of singleness was not a punishment, it was a positioning. And if you miss this, you'll misinterpret everything that comes next. Right now, while the world celebrates surface affection, God has been refining your discernment. While others rushed into connections that felt good but weren't aligned, you were held back, not rejected, but protected. This Valentine's Day is not a reminder of absence. It is a marker. A spiritual line in the sand between what you almost accepted and what you were preserved for. There is a reason your heart did not settle for halfway love. There is a reason certain relationships never fully formed. You thought it was timing. You thought it was incompatibility. But the truth is, there were assignments attached to you that required solitude before union. Some people cannot walk into covenant until identity is settled, boundaries are healed, and spiritual authority is formed. And this is where it becomes uncomfortable, because not everyone who wanted you was meant to keep you. Some were drawn to your light, but not called to protect it. Others admired your depth, but would have drowned in it. Heaven blocked what would have slowly diminished you, even if it felt lonely in the moment. If this message is stirring something in you, pause for a second. Breathe. Let it land. And if your heart senses this is speaking directly to you, gently support the channel so more messages like this reach the right people. But stay right here, because what's coming next explains why this Valentine's Day matters more than the ones you spent with someone. There is a divine reason this season feels quiet. Quiet seasons are not empty seasons. They are listening seasons. God does the deepest relational work when distractions are removed. That's when patterns break. That's when soul ties dissolve. That's when you stop confusing attention with alignment. You were not overlooked, you were hidden. Hidden long enough to heal without being rushed. Hidden long enough to learn what peace feels like without chaos. Hidden long enough to stop craving intensity and start valuing consistency. And now, something is shifting. This is why comparison has started to lose its grip on you. This is why loneliness feels different than it used to, less desperate, more discerning. You're not waiting anymore. You're readying. And readiness changes everything. But here's the part most people miss, and this is crucial. If this season ended too soon, you would repeat what broke you. If companionship came before clarity, it would compete with your calling. Heaven waited until your standards aligned with your worth, because the next connection will not be casual. It will be consequential. In a few minutes from now, around the point most people stop listening, there's a truth that will explain why some doors stayed closed even when you prayed for them to open. And if you leave before that moment, you'll assume God was silent, when in reality, He was strategic. Stay with this. Because what's coming next will reveal who this season was really preparing you for, and why this Valentine's Day is not the end of a story, but the beginning of a very specific one. You're still here, and that matters more than you realize. Because the next truth is not comforting at first, but it is freeing. The reason this season tested your patience is because it was also testing your discernment. Love that arrives before clarity often leaves behind confusion. And God refused to let confusion be your teacher again. You've already lived through connections that started with excitement and ended with exhaustion. You gave access too quickly. You explained yourself too often. You felt chemistry, but not safety. And every time, your spirit whispered, "Something is off," but your heart hoped it would change. This season of singleness was heaven's intervention, quiet, firm, and intentional. This is where the world misunderstands divine timing. They think delay means denial. But delay, when guided by God, is refinement. It is not about keeping you alone. It is about removing what would cost you peace later. Because the next relationship you step into will not just affect your emotions, it will affect your purpose. There is someone God is preparing who will not need you to shrink, chase, or prove. Someone who will recognize you without being convinced. Someone who won't be intimidated by your depth or threatened by your calling. But that kind of union cannot be rushed into existence. It requires alignment, not urgency. And here's something important, listen closely. If God had allowed you to partner with who you wanted before you healed what you tolerated, you would have mistaken familiarity for destiny. That's why the attraction faded. That's why communication broke down. That's why effort became one-sided. Heaven stepped in where your heart kept hoping. You weren't rejected by people. You were redirected by God. This Valentine's Day is not exposing your lack, it's revealing your growth. There was a time when days like this would crush you. You would question your worth. You would feel behind. But now, something has changed. You feel the loneliness, yes, but it no longer controls you. You feel the desire, but it no longer defines you. That's maturity. And maturity is magnetic. This is also why shallow attention doesn't satisfy you anymore. Compliments without consistency feel empty. Promises without follow-through feel loud but hollow. You've outgrown surface connections, and surface connections have noticed. That's why fewer people approach you, and why the right one will approach you differently. Pay attention to this shift. You are no longer trying to be chosen. You are choosing wisely. And there's another layer most people never consider. Singleness is not just about romance. It's about authority. You've been learning to stand emotionally stable without someone else regulating your mood. You've been building routines, convictions, and boundaries that won't collapse under intimacy. That's not accidental. That's preparation. Because when love arrives, it won't be a rescue, it will be a partnership. This is also why you felt a strange mix of peace and anticipation lately. Not desperation. Not anxiety. But a quiet sense that something is aligning. That's not imagination. That's discernment activating. When God is close to moving, He often calms the noise instead of increasing it. If this resonates, don't rush past it. Stay present. And if this message is helping you see your season differently, Gently support its reach so others don't misinterpret their waiting either, but stay focused, because the next truth explains why timing matters more than chemistry. There is a connection coming that will feel unfamiliar at first, not because it's wrong, but because it's healthy. It won't trigger your anxiety. It won't keep you guessing. And that might feel boring to the version of you that was addicted to emotional highs. But it will feel safe to the version of you God has been shaping. And here's the warning embedded in the promise. When that connection appears, it will require you to honor what this season taught you. If you ignore your discernment, then you will undo what heaven has protected now. That's why this season had to last as long as it did. It wasn't about waiting for someone, it was about becoming someone who can keep what God sends. In a few moments ahead, there's a sign you'll recognize, not with logic, but with peace. And when you hear it, you'll understand why some doors never opened, and why this Valentine's Day is quietly marking the end of one cycle and the beginning of another. Don't leave yet. Because the next part reveals how to recognize what's truly aligned, and what to walk away from, even if it feels tempting. Now listen carefully, because this is where discernment becomes protection. Not everything that feels like love is sent by God. Some connections arrive to test whether you will abandon what you've learned just to avoid being alone. And after a long season of waiting, temptation doesn't come looking like rebellion, it comes looking like almost right. This is why the next season requires wisdom, not emotion. There will be opportunities to settle. Invitations that feel flattering. Attention that feels validating. And if you are not grounded in what this season taught you, you could confuse relief with alignment. God did not bring you this far just to let you hand your heart to something familiar but misaligned. Here is one of the clearest signs you are stepping into the right connection: peace without performance. You won't feel the need to impress, explain, or audition. You won't feel anxiety about being misunderstood. You won't need constant reassurance. Instead, there will be a quiet mutual recognition, as if both of you know this was not rushed, forced, or chased. That peace is not dull. It is powerful. But understand this: peace will feel unfamiliar at first if chaos was your normal. If past relationships were intense, unpredictable, or emotionally volatile, stability may initially feel strange. You might even question it. That doesn't mean something is wrong. It means your nervous system is adjusting to something healthy. God has been rewiring your responses. This is also why boundaries have become easier for you lately. You no longer feel guilty for saying no. You no longer overextend to keep someone interested. You no longer abandon your needs to preserve connection. That shift didn't happen overnight. It was formed in quiet moments when you chose self-respect over attachment. And heaven noticed. This Valentine's Day is not about what you don't have, it's about what you no longer tolerate. That's growth most people never celebrate, but it's the foundation of every lasting relationship. You are no longer drawn to potential. You are drawn to consistency. You're no longer impressed by words. You're attentive to patterns. That's discernment maturing. Here's something important to hear: the right person will not rush your healing or compete with your calling. They will not make you choose between love and obedience. They will not see your boundaries as barriers, but as indicators of value. Anyone who pressures you to move faster than peace allows is revealing misalignment, not passion. Pay attention to how your spirit responds, not just your emotions. God often confirms alignment through absence of confusion. When something is meant for you, you won't need to decipher mixed signals. You won't need to chase clarity. You won't need to compromise your convictions to keep interest alive. There will be effort, but it will be mutual. There will be attraction, but it will be grounded. This is why singleness was necessary. You needed time to learn the difference between longing and leading, between desire and discernment, between being wanted and being valued. And now, here's the part many don't expect. The next relationship may not arrive with fireworks. It may arrive with familiarity that feels safe, steady, and sincere. And that will be the test. Will you trust the calm, or will you chase the spark? Will you honor peace, or will you romanticize anxiety? Your answer will determine whether this season becomes a breakthrough or a repeat. If this message is opening your eyes, stay with it. Let it recalibrate you. And if supporting this channel helps more people recognize these patterns before repeating them, do so quietly, but don't disengage yet, because the next truth explains why God waited until now to allow love to approach you at all. There was a timing issue, not with your worth, but with your readiness. Earlier versions of you would have compromised. They would have overgiven. They would have mistaken intensity for intimacy. But this version of you knows better. This version can receive without losing self. That's why now. And there is one more layer, one final preparation, that most people overlook. It's subtle, but it's decisive. In the next moments, you'll hear why this season wasn't just about romance, but about positioning your entire future correctly. Don't stop here. Because what comes next will reveal the moment you'll know it's real, and the sign that confirms you're finally stepping into what was delayed for a reason. This is where everything begins to narrow. Because what God is preparing to bring into your life will not arrive loudly. It will arrive clearly. And clarity is something only a healed heart can recognize without fear. Here is the truth most people never hear. When something is truly aligned, it does not compete with your peace, it protects it. That is why God delayed certain connections. Not because you weren't ready to love, but because you were still learning how to receive love without losing yourself. Earlier, you would have overfunctioned. You would have explained your worth. You would have tolerated inconsistency just to feel chosen. But now, notice the shift. You don't chase emotional highs anymore. You notice patterns. You pause before attaching. You listen to your spirit before reacting. That's not accidental. That's authority forming. And this authority matters, because the next connection will mirror the level of self-respect you now carry. Love does not rise above identity, it reflects it. That's why God focused on you first. Not to withhold love, but to make sure love doesn't derail what He's building through you. Now listen closely, because this part is delicate. When the right person appears, there will be no urgency to impress. No pressure to prove. No fear of being replaced. Instead, there will be a shared pace. Slow enough to build trust, strong enough to build desire. You will feel wanted, but not consumed. Chosen, but not owned. That balance is rare. And it only forms in people who learned how to stand alone without becoming bitter. This Valentine's Day is significant because it marks the end of striving. Not striving for attention. Not striving for validation. Not striving to be seen. Something in you has settled. And when striving ends, alignment begins. But here's the warning hidden inside the promise. Because when you stop striving, substitutes will still appear. People who sense your stability may be drawn to it, but not everyone who is drawn to your peace is meant to share it. Some will want access without responsibility, affection without accountability, intimacy without intention. This is where discernment must stay active. God will not force you into alignment. He will present it and allow you to choose. That's why this season trained you to recognize how your body reacts to truth. Peace will feel expansive. Anxiety will feel urgent. One invites patience. The other demands immediacy. Choose accordingly. And if this message is helping you recalibrate your heart, there is a quiet way to support its reach. The super thanks button below is not a payment, it's a signal. A way of saying, "This spoke to me, and I want this clarity to reach others who are misreading their waiting." There is no obligation, only alignment. And alignment always flows from the heart. Now stay with this, because the next truth explains why the next season will require courage, not longing. Love that comes after healing asks more of you than love that comes before it. It asks you to stay honest, to speak when silence is easier, to walk away when something violates peace, even if it feels familiar, to trust God's pace instead of emotional momentum. This is why God waited until now. You are no longer easily swayed. You no longer confuse chemistry with character. You no longer mistake attention for intention. And that discernment will protect what's coming, but only if you use it. There is a specific moment ahead, subtle, quiet, easily missed, when you'll feel a knowing rather than excitement. Not butterflies, but steadiness. Not fireworks, but clarity. And that will be the sign. Most people miss that sign because they're addicted to intensity. But you won't, because this season trained you differently. You are not behind. You are not late. You are not forgotten. You are arriving at love awake, not desperate. And the final truth, the one that ties everything together, is coming next. It will show you how to step forward without fear, how to trust without losing discernment, and how to recognize the moment when waiting officially ends. Stay here. Because the next words will reveal what to do when love finally stands in front of you, and how to know, without doubt, that this time is different. Now listen. Because this is where waiting turns into wisdom, and wisdom turns into movement. When love finally stands in front of you, it will not ask you to abandon who you've become. It will not rush your decisions or blur your boundaries. It will honor the season that shaped you. And the clearest confirmation will not be excitement, it will be alignment across your spirit, your values, and your pace. This is how you'll know it's different this time. You won't feel pressure to perform. You won't rehearse conversations in your head. You won't wonder where you stand. There will be clarity without control, affection without anxiety, attraction without confusion. Not because the connection is perfect, but because it's grounded in truth, not fantasy. And here's the part many people misunderstand. The arrival of love does not end discernment. It requires more of it. Because what God sends to you will grow, and growth always reveals layers. There will be moments where communication matters, where honesty matters, where courage matters. And this season prepared you not just to receive love, but to steward it. You are no longer someone who gives everything just to keep someone. You are someone who evaluates whether someone can walk with you without diminishing you. That shift is sacred. This is also why fear has been losing its voice lately. You're no longer afraid of being alone, so you won't settle just to avoid it. You're no longer afraid of losing someone, so you won't tolerate what costs you peace. You've already survived solitude. That means you'll choose companionship from strength, not lack. That's readiness. And readiness attracts the right kind of love. There is something else unfolding beneath the surface, something ongoing. This message, these reminders, this clarity you're receiving right now, it's part of a larger rhythm. Growth doesn't happen in one moment. It happens through consistency, reflection, and alignment over time. That's why some people choose to stay connected through channel membership, not for exclusivity, but for continuity. A quieter space where these messages deepen, where discernment is strengthened, and where spiritual clarity isn't rushed. It's not about access. It's about staying aligned through seasons of transition. But stay present here, because this matters more. The end of waiting doesn't mean the end of vulnerability. It means choosing courage over comfort. It means being willing to be seen without armor. To communicate instead of withdraw. To trust without surrendering wisdom. That balance is what transforms connection into covenant. You are stepping into a season where love will require participation, not projection. You won't be imagining what someone could be. You'll be engaging with who they are. And that honesty, while challenging at times, will be freeing. This Valentine's Day was never meant to shame you. It was meant to mark you. Mark the end of rushing. Mark the end of confusion. Mark the end of settling. From this point forward, you move with intention. You listen before attaching. You choose peace over pressure. And you trust that what arrives in alignment will not require you to betray yourself. And if you ever feel tempted to doubt the season you're in, remember this: God does not delay love to punish you. He delays it to protect the future you cannot yet see. What's coming is not fragile, it's intentional. But intention requires timing. So don't rush ahead of peace. Don't romanticize what feels familiar but unsettled. Don't ignore the wisdom this season gave you. You are not waiting anymore, you are watching. Watching for consistency. Watching for character. Watching for peace that stays. And when love finally meets you there, you'll recognize it, not because it overwhelms you, but because it fits. Stay open. Stay discerning. Stay grounded. Because this chapter is not closing in disappointment, it's opening in clarity. And what comes next will not feel like longing fulfilled, it will feel like alignment realized. And that, quiet, steady, undeniable, that is how you'll know this Valentine's Day was never about being single. It was about being ready.